So we've got Bob Burg here, and he is an absolute legend in his field. He's changed the way that I do business. He's changed my life. He was one of the first self-help books that I read, and ultimately it's someone that I always talk to, a massive influencer for me, and I talk to all of my clients and make sure that they go and read. Number one, The Go-Giver. They need to jump into that. That changes the way you do business. So, Bob, tell me a bit about The Go-Giver.
Well, it's a business parable, so it's a fictional story based on tried and proven principles, and there's a lot of stories within the story that actually happen, but the actual work is a work of fiction. It's co-authored with John David Mann, who's a fantastic storyteller and writer. I'm much more of a how-to guy, and it's a story of a guy named Joe, who's a young, up-and-coming, ambitious, aggressive salesperson. He's a good guy, and he has good intent, but he's very frustrated because he hasn't reached the kind of success he believes he should have by this point. But he really comes to learn that the big problem is that his focus is really on himself when it comes right down to it, as opposed to others. And what he learns through the story is that when you can shift your focus off of yourself and onto others, being focused on creating, or what we call giving, exceptional value to everyone you meet, you realize that not only is that a nicer, a more pleasant way of conducting business, it's actually the most financially profitable way as well.
I have to say I completely agree. Having read your book would have been now, I couldn't even say how many years ago. It was many, many years ago. I started off with The Go-Giver and thought, this is amazing. Jumped onto The Go-Giver Leader, jumped onto Sell Me More, and then Endless Referrals and the Success Formula. I opened the library. So,
wow. Thank you. It's a great compliment.
I can say your teachings are amazing, and the way that was done in The Go-Giver was a very light, easy read, in my opinion. It wasn't. It related to lots of people, and it wasn't something that you pick it up and you just wanted to read it. You didn't want to put it down. It wasn't something that was hard to read. And
credit for that goes to John. That's his writing skills.
Well, it helped, and especially in my naivety when I was first starting out in business, being able to read something like that and go, okay, this sounds good. And knowing that there is good ways and great ways to do business, as opposed to the ruthless cutthroat methods that seem to be fictionalized and in movies.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons there was appeal for the book, for the message, because, most human beings, they want to feel like they're making a positive difference in people's lives. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so I think what the book said is basically, yeah, you can do business that way. But not only is it can you focus on bringing value to others, and not only is it going to have you feel good about yourself, not only are you going to make money doing that, but that's actually the more effective way of doing it than focusing on yourself. Because, you think about this, and I often will say this in a sort of a joking manner when I speak at a sales conference. One of the first things I'll say is, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They're not going to buy from you, right? And we all laugh because we all know that's true. No one's going to buy from us because we need the sale, right? Yeah. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money. And they're not even going to buy from you because you're a nice person. They're going to buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's perfect. It's the only reason why anyone should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. And the neat thing about that is what it does is it makes it so that salesperson or entrepreneur who can place their focus on that other person, placing that other person's interest first, doing what's in the best interest of that other person, and being able to communicate that, that's the person who's going to be more successful, both in the short term and the longer sustainable term.
Well, I can say proof is in the pudding, and I've made my business on the pudding that you gave me. So it's it worked out really well, and definitely it's and as you said, it should be straightforward, but it just doesn't seem to come by nature. And I know myself, I'm very technical. My background's technical, my skill set's technical, and I was the technician that decided I've got something better to give to the world, and excuse the French, but scared shitless when it came to trying to sell or talk to people about it. And your book sort of described it perfectly. Don't sell. Just show people what you've got to offer.
Here's what it is. It's not that you're not selling, but we define selling differently than most people
exactly.
define, right? Because when you think about it, a lot of people say, well, what's selling? Selling is trying to convince someone to buy something they don't want or need. Well, that's not selling. That's called being a thief. So what is selling? Well, selling by definition, selling is simply discovering what that other person does want, does need, does desire, and helping them to get it. In the old English root of the word sell was selan, which literally meant to give. So when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone might say, well, wait a second, isn't that just semantics? And so, well, I don't think so, and here's why. Let's say you have a prospective customer in front of you, and they want to know why they should do business with you, why you're the solution to their problem, so you're in a sales situation. You are selling. So my question would be, when you're selling, what are you giving? I suggest you're giving that person time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and ultimately extreme value. So when we look at selling that way, now we see that it's really something good that we're doing.
You're helping everyone ultimately, unless you're being a thief, as you said. If you
sure, and that's not selling. That's
right.
Being a thief.
That's right. As long as you've got a good product, a good mindset, and you believe in what you're doing and what you're selling and what your message is, I find that your customers become your best salespeople.
Oh, absolutely. They become your personal walking ambassadors. Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. So it's an amazing concept. So anyone that hasn't read The Go-Giver definitely needs to jump into it. It's a must read. It needs to sit on there on the shelf as one of the first books that you read, next to E-Myth and then other classics. So, and in fact, when I first met my partner Sarah, she'd started her first business as the first. So backstory: met her on Tinder, and it's not. I would have rather meet her in a nicer way, but we live in the age that we live in. So met her on Tinder, and the first time we caught up together, she had a folder there, and I caught up with her. She didn't know if it was a business meeting or a date, and I was talking to her about different ways that she could better her business, and I'm, if I don't say so myself, quite the gentleman opening the door and so on and so forth for her. And I said, one of the first things you need to do is read The Go-Giver, and this copy that I've actually got here. Now that we've been together for a while, is signed by me, saying, "To all your success, love, Josh." So this is actually the book that I had for myself, and I gifted to her, and it's come straight back. And although that sounds a bit corny, it's exactly the message that you're giving. You give, and it comes back to you, and it comes back to you in. I gave her a book, and I got a life partner. How good's that? So it comes back to you significantly more than what you give out.
Well, that's awesome. And I had never thought of my book going along on a Tinder date or business opportunity or what have you, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah. So here you are. You obviously an invite to the wedding.
Yeah, really, exactly.
So I thought just a little thank you on that one, and the opportunities don't stop it when you turn off your sales cap. It's always on, and if you're passionate about it, it's good things always come your way.
Yep.
So tell me about what happens after the book. When someone's read the book, what's the next steps they can do to find out how to better themselves and adventure onwards past the one-way literature?
Well, application is always really key, and that's why in the story itself, Pindar, the main mentor, told Joe there was really only one condition for his mentorship, and that is that he applied those laws. Yep. Day that he would, every time he learned a new law, he would apply the law that day. It didn't have to be done perfectly. It wasn't a matter of figuring out exactly why it wouldn't work or what have you. Just do the thing, right? Just take action on it. And so we find the feedback that we receive, a lot of people, bless you, a lot of people do that. They, a lot of people will take one law and say, okay, how do I apply this? How do I do this? And they'll work on that. And I always think that's a great way to start. So you ask yourself, how do I bring value to another human being? And when you think about it, we have to really understand what value is, what it means. A lot of times I think people maybe confuse price and value. And those are actually two different terms. For example, the law of value says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. But you think about it, that sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy. Give more in value than I take in payment. Aren't I going to go out of business? And so we simply have to understand the difference between price and value.
Yep.
So what we know is that price is a dollar amount. It's a dollar figure. It's finite. It simply is what it is. It's the price. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, this service, this concept, this idea that brings with it so much worth or value to another human being that they will willingly exchange their money for this and be glad, be ecstatic that they did, while you make a very healthy profit. And so, when you automate, for example, somebody's business and do this in a way that what do you do? What's the value you're providing? You're saving them time. You're saving them energy. You're saving them from making needless mistakes. You're making it so that they're going to make more money in their business. So I guarantee you that whatever it is you charge that person, they're getting much more in value than what they're paying. But you're making a very healthy profit, because obviously with your costs of goods sold and rent and everything else, you're selling the service for much, much more than what you're having to pay to support it. And that's why in a market-based economy, there are always, with every sale, there should be two profits: the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. So that's the law of value. It's not a matter of, some people might think, they hear the go-giver. Does that mean you're giving away your products or services? No, it doesn't mean you're not making a profit. No, of course not. As a go-giver, you're going to make a much higher profit, because your focus is going to be on the value, the experience, everything you provide that other person, right? Not low price. When you sell on low price, you're a commodity.
Correct.
When you sell on high value, you're a resource.
Well, it's too many people. There's a podcast I did a few weeks ago on apples versus oranges. How could they possibly be the same price when people are comparing apples with apples? And as soon as you are comparing apples with apples, you've commoditized your business. And then the only thing that you can fight on is price. And that's where you need to be able to bring that value, bring that difference, bring that change. And I know that you're a big fan of the so you've got value, price, and cost.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So when you look at that, at the price, and I think, the cost is pretty self-explanatory. The price is self-explanatory, right? But when we talk about value, that can be both concrete in terms of, when someone saves a certain amount of money, when you help someone make a certain amount, that's fine. But there's so much more to the experience itself, even, that's conceptual in nature. But here's what we've got to really understand: that value is always in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes.
So what that other person feels is valuable about your product or service or doing business with you or what have you, not what you think it is of value or what you think they should think is of value. It's about what they do. So if we're going to say to somebody, okay, so how do you practice the law of value, right? Well, the first thing you do is ask questions and make sure you discover what other people find to be of value.
Yep.
And then you go from there, because it's not a matter of just doing things that you think are of value to others. That's fine. But what you feel is of value may not be what they feel is.
Correct. And then there's this disparity between your service offerings not being seen as valuable, but you're spending all your time trying to deliver something.
And why, right?
Yeah. So it's a very, very valuable lesson. And I know that you're big on authority building and influence, and I think that is something that can bring a lot of value to people. Something that can show people your worth in mass without necessarily having to spend time as a commodity. You're able to put a resource in front of people, or it's able to come about in front of them, where they can see the things that can benefit their business and benefit their life. How would you go about starting off becoming an influencer?
So, I think it's always a good thing to define. I'm always a big believer in defining terms so that we're all coming, facing the same direction. So when you think about what influence even is, on a very basic level, influence can be defined as simply the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. So by definition, that's influence. Now, that's the definition. But I don't believe that's the essence of influence. The essence of influence is pull. Pull as opposed to push, as in the saying, how far can you push a rope? And the answer is not very, at least not very fast or very effectively, which is why great influencers don't push, right? You never hear people saying, wow, that Tom or that Nancy, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people. No, she's influential. She has a lot of pull with people. That's what influence is. It's pull. It's an attraction. Great influencers first attract people to themselves and only then to their ideas. So how do we do that? Well, so the law of influence says, in the book, the law of influence says, your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Well, what does that mean? I mean, we're not talking about being self-sacrificial or being a martyr or being a doormat, but no, here's what we mean. Like this person who utilizes pull in order to influence, that person's always asking themselves questions such as, how does what I am asking this other person to do, how does it align with their goals? With their wants, their needs, their desires? How does what I want this other person to do, how does it align with their values? How am I making their life better? What is a problem of theirs I am helping them to solve? And see, Josh, when we ask ourselves these questions thoughtfully, intelligently, genuinely, authentically, not as a way to manipulate another human being into doing our will, but as a way of building everyone in the process, now we've come a lot closer to earning that person's commitment as opposed to trying to depend on some type of compliance, which is push, right? That's pushing ourselves or pushing our will and so forth. So
how would you, if say you're a small business, you've just started out and you've got just yourself, you've just read The Go-Giver, and you're thinking about how can you change your methodology from being a push, maybe I'm sure you've seen some of the pyramid schemes that are out there that have generally more push than pull from a sales perspective when they're trying to get you to on-sell certain products without mentioning brands and bits and pieces. There's lots of them out there, and that's always a very push, and their sales training has all been very push. How would you change someone from a push mentality into a pull mentality, and how would you change around their processes to allow for that to come to fruition and be noticed by either their existing customers that have come about probably through getting sick of saying no and they've finally said yes? Or how would you then change the mentality of their customer base? Or do you think that it would be more of a situation where you'd refresh the customer base? Or I guess, how would you change your mindset from the 1980s, this is how I'm going to be pushing something onto someone, to the 2020s, soon to be? How would you change their process?
So I would say, regardless of the field, if it's sales, there are certain people who do it through push, and and the good ones, the sustainably successful ones, do it through pull.
Yeah.
The ones who do it through push and have been successful for a long time, they have to continue repeating the process over and over and over again with new people all the time. It's exhausting. It's very, very difficult. You can do it, but it's very difficult to build a sustainable business that way. The ones who do it through pull, regardless of the business, regardless of the industry, these are the people who typically are able to really develop a wonderful referral base. Mm-hmm. And as you were mentioning earlier, people who are out there singing your praises, right? What we call personal walking ambassadors. So I think it begins with the initial conversation. And let's say you meet someone somewhere, and you're at a business social function, and you just say hello, and you say your name, and they say their name, and you ask them what they do, and they tell you what they do, and they're going to probably give you some kind of real elevator speech, right? I sell high-end copying machines to businesses that need to blah 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 blah, blah, right? And so forth, because that's what most people have been taught to do. So you want to listen respectfully when they do it. But then when they ask you what you do, which they'll probably do, my suggestion is to, rather than do some elevator speech, because remember, right now when this person first meets you, they really don't care about you and don't care about what you do. They care about themselves. So my feeling is, just say the name, say whatever your company is, whatever you do. I'm an accountant with so-and-so, or whatever. But then you're going to go right back to asking that person questions about themselves and about their business. So, I have questions I call feel-good questions, and those are questions that they're not salesy, they're not prospecty, they're not intrusive, they're not invasive. They just make this person feel genuinely good about themselves, about the situation, and about you. And remember, when you're focusing on them, you're taking the pressure off yourself. You don't have to be that person who has that clever, pushy line that, and so forth. So the first, feel-good question that you can ask is simply, how did you get your start, or how did you get started in the copying machine business, or selling copying machines, or, what have you? Or you may say how did you get your start in the office products profession, a little bit more elegant, or whatever it is that person does. Asking them how they got their start is a fantastic way to immediately communicate value to them, because, again, value is much more than just money. It's making a person feel important, feel good about themselves. And how many people ever ask this person how they got started in their business? I guarantee their own family probably doesn't ask that person. And here's you, who they just met, and you're asking them to tell you their story, and they're going to appreciate that. I would follow that up probably with another feel-good question, such as, what do you enjoy most about what you do? You'll probably segue into it by saying, wow, you must have had some fascinating experiences. What do you enjoy most about your work? Or what do you enjoy most about what you do? And again, it's a feel-good question. There's no pressure attached to it. Now, when you've begun to develop a little bit of a rapport with that person, I would then suggest asking what I call the one key question that will set you apart from practically everyone else that person has ever met. And that question sounds something like this. Gary, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is a good prospective customer for you? And you think about what you've done when asking that question, right? Unlike other people who are just, again, trying to sell their product or service right away, or what have you, you have actually said to this person, not in so many words, but what you've communicated is, I want to help you. Yeah. I want to add value to your life. I want to make your life better. Yeah. And so, and they're going to really appreciate that. Now, at the end of the conversation, you've got their business card. You can follow up with a personalized handwritten note, which is so much better than a text or an email, even though those are always good. But when after you first meet someone, there's nothing like a personalized note card to send, handwritten. Just saying, it was great meeting you. If I can ever refer business your way, I certainly will. And you've now established a connection. You've now established a relationship with this person that you can, then begin to build on however you do it. Whether it's by you're now, then you connect with that person on social media. If you can, whenever you can, refer that person to someone else, or if that person has an interest in antiques, and you find an article on antiques, and you print it out and you send it to them, and say, hey, I came across this, and I remember you love antiques, thought you might find, all these things you're doing, you're just creating that relationship with that person. And this does not have to take a long time. It doesn't. And But what happens is when you do this consistently, okay, and you do this over time with new people on an everyday basis, you start developing so many people within your new sphere of influence that you've always got someone who's at that point where it's ready for you to approach them about either doing business with them directly and or referrals.
Well, we had Oscar Trimboli on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he talks about listening more than speaking. And what you're saying there, you need to make sure that you are genuinely listening to people.
Absolutely.
You're not just hearing them. You need to be, lack of a better word, involved emotionally in what they're saying and listening to what they're saying and actually action from that information. You don't want to be just hearing them and then think, oh yeah, cool. You like remote control racing. That's cool. Okay. And moving on. That's you need to turn on the plane and be ready and engaged to build that relationship if that's what's important. And ultimately in business, it is the currency that is the most important. Building relationships. All ships rise in high tide, especially relationships. So
as we're saying, as several of the mentors told Joe in the story, the golden rule of business, of sales, of networking, what have you, is simply that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit these sort of feelings toward you from others than by, and again, as you said, genuinely, right? Genuinely and authentically, and that, moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, where you're really looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors, advised Joe, make your win all about that other person's win. Yeah,
100%. It is all about the other person, and it should always be about the other person. And when people say, all the things that salespeople say, I'm not closing enough, it's all a numbers game, and all this other stuff. There's always someone out there, as you said, that's ready to build a relationship, ready to listen to, be heard, and ready to have their story heard. And building those relationships, when the time comes, will come. If you're being a pushy person that's all about the numbers and you're trying to change your 3% conversion to a 5% or a 5% to a 10% when you're calling up, and it's a yuckier game with a lot more negativity. It's a game that you have a lot of friction towards building the relationships, as opposed to genuinely building relationships.
Well, yeah, it always comes back to how you do it. If you're doing it with the how do I serve this person, you're going to have a lot more success. Than if you're saying, okay, I'm going to talk at this person and try to get them to buy. Again, it's not that doing it the go-giver way is self-sacrificial. No, it's more profitable doing it that way. Because again, are they more likely or less likely to buy from you when they can tell that you're focused on them as opposed to being focused on getting their money?
And they're going to see that the solutions that you're putting in place, you've been listening to them, you understand their problems, you understand their stresses, you understand their pain points. You're able to then focus on that and make sure that you're removing those problems, not just explaining that moving to this solution is better for your business. You're hearing their problems and saying, well, maybe this isn't better for your business. And that's fine as well. And
absolutely, when that happens, that happens.
And that's not a bad problem to have either. If you've still got a perfect person there that you've been talking to, building a relationship with, they know the solutions that you offer. They know the things that it does, the things that it doesn't, the bells and whistles, and that then allows for them to then refer other businesses on when they see that there is a better fit for you when they hear other people's problems.
That's right.
And that's where you have the compounding effect of growth. And it's really a beautiful thing. So I've been very excited. As I said, the Go Giver changed my life. Change the direction, and not just from a personal relationship perspective that I brought up earlier, much before that. So, again, thank you for that one. And
my pleasure.
I've read different books. There's one, I hope I'm not quoting the wrong name here. If I am, I'll correct it with the title down here. I think it's called Sapiens, and it talks about how many relationships a single person can have in their life and build out from that. And they talk around the magic number of that. That's weird.
That's Sapiens.
That's the one.
Yeah, and he talked about, the tribes back in the hunter-gatherer days that
Correct.
were basically about 150, and that's sort of the number. David Burkus writes about that too in his book, and there's a lot, and I'm just trying to think of the person who, and it's somebody's Durham's or Dunham's, and I can't think of what law it is, but it's that he is the person who kind of came up. He documented that 150 person.
Now, for anyone that's watching this, that wasn't staged there. You've got hundreds of books behind you. What are the chances of it on your desk?
Well, the funny thing is, a good friend of mine had referred Sapiens to me about 2 years ago, and
Okay.
I always have so many books on the list to read.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking in, I think, Colorado maybe, and a couple of weeks ago, and I got that at the bookstore. I saw it at the bookstore, and I was looking for it. I was hoping to pick it up, and I started reading it, and I really haven't been able to put it down. It's really I'm about 3/4 of the way through now. It's fascinating.
It's a fantastic book. With building relationships, and obviously all different businesses have, I guess you brought home exactly what I was bringing up in the book. That's the rule of 150, maybe 200 people. And if you are in the business of selling items that, if you're in a business where you need to sell more items, and not say a B2B business in a professional industry like myself, I have 50 to 70 businesses that I'm working with. I'm happy as Larry, and I can comfortably have those 70 relationships. But if you're selling something that is a lower price item, we need to have significantly higher ratio. Maybe it's 500 to 1 or something like that, and you still want to have those relationships built, and you want to have the authenticity with the relationships, but knowing that you can't necessarily have the closeness. And as they talk about the different circles of relationships that you have, and you have your close, intimate relationships, and then it goes out from there. How do you make sure, or how do you keep the authenticity? Would you suggest people using different databasing programs to write down notes on people to make sure that if you don't talk to them for 2 years and then they come back to you and they said, Larry, I really loved the talk that we had at the business conferencing meeting from 2 years ago that you can barely remember because there was too many beers flying around, and what would be the best method to make sure that you are being authentic? Would you say, Larry, I'm glad we had a good chat, but don't remember? Or would you say, as soon as you get home, as soon as you get back to the office, write down what you remember about Larry and make sure that you can have a refresher? Or how would you make sure that you keep?
Well, I think the key with technology is to always use it to help with your authenticity. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, it shouldn't be that it's about the technology. It's not. It's about the human relationship, when you can utilize technology to do that. So I do want to write down what I talked about with someone and review it every so often, because I do want to know. Okay. But if something comes up where, I happen to see that person or what have you, and they bring that up and it's really not something that I do. Now, again, it depends on the context. Usually I'm going to say, you know what, my gosh, I love you, love talking with you, but I don't remember exactly what we talked about in that conversation. If you have that kind of relationship, you can do that. Yeah. But if it's going to hurt that person's feelings because that person does, maybe whatever, well, no, I'd probably just say, yeah, always love talking with you. And yeah, that was great. Again, sometimes I think we go too overboard with being literal, in some ways. You always want to be honest, but you also always want to be kind and tactful as well. But so when technology can help you to authentically keep in touch with another person, absolutely, totally, we utilize that.
Cool, that's perfect. So that's something that I know that myself, I've had. I write down as many things as I can remember about as many conversations that I have with people. And that could be whether or not they like Chivas Regal, or they have a dog named whatever the dog's name.
Well, that's good, because if they like Chivas Regal, and that might be something you might send them sometime on a special occasion. If their dog's name is Checkers, and you want to be able to remember that their dog's name is Checkers when you speak, if you can remember it just because you remember it, that's great. I love animals, so I tend to remember people's pets' names, but that's not everybody. And there's other things about people I don't remember. And in that case, you need that reminder. So no, I think all of that is great when it helps to further a relationship and it's authentic and genuine. of course, utilize the technology.
It's perfect. Well, as I said, I think technology is perfect to be able to help people out. But as you said, do not overcome the personal touch. Don't use technology to be personal. Use technology to get rid of the repetition, but use yourself and your power that you have, your voice that you use to build those personal relationships.
Exactly.
And that's what it's about. It's just the cavemen had different tools that they used to achieve their objectives, and the time has changed. The chairs we sit in are different. The offices have aircon in them, but we use a different set of tools to achieve the same objectives, which is awesome.
They're just tools, exactly.
Well, we're getting very close to the end here. I wanted to sort of ask: is there any speaking events or things that you do either around the States or within Australia or down under that are coming up anytime?
I typically, at this point, I travel a lot less than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
At 61, I just I just don't want to be traveling all over the place. So I limit my out of state in the States, my out of state engagements to about 20 a year now, and I try to now keep it within the States. We're doing, and those are my corporate programs I do, but we also have public seminars that we do, usually in Orlando, because it's easier for people from Australia and Singapore and South Africa and London and so forth to get there. And so we hold them in Orlando, which is really only a couple of hours drive from me up the road, but Orlando, because it's Disney World, it's easier for people to get into.
Absolutely.
So we have, our next one is actually in late January. It's called Endless Referrals, the Go Giver Way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be having, we limit those to about 50 people. So it's over 2 days and it's very hands-on. So those are the ones that will be the public ones that we'll be doing from now on. And, as much as I have so many great mates in Australia and I just if I could beam myself there, I would do that in a minute. But the long flight, I just don't travel well anymore. So
I was really
pretty close to home.
It took me 2 weeks to get over the jet lag when I last headed to the States, and I went, this is pretty bad. But give me your favorite Aussie accent. Your best Aussie accent.
Oh, let's see. Hi, mate. Lovely to see you. Love all my mates down there. And we'll have a good time. No worries. No worries.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds, I don't mind that. That's good. I normally we get people come down like,
Yeah, in the States, we love Australians. We love our Aussie mates. So it's, always a neat thing, and it's always a joy to connect with any of my friends from the beautiful land down under.
Well, I had the opportunity to head over for 3 months last year as I was traveling all around the place, and I'd have to say it's like you're traveling to different countries with each state that you go to.
Oh, it's amazing, I know.
Where Australia is, in my opinion, more so, it's not as diverse. You have parts that are definitely greener and parts that are more tropical, but overall, the accent doesn't vary a whole bunch. The people mentality that doesn't change a whole bunch, except for obvious things such as you go into the middle of a city in New York and you go to Sydney, and there's the hustle and bustle, and there's people aren't as friendly, but it's that's just the nature of the beast. And for anyone that does want to head to any of your opportunities that you've got, either in person or any of the content that you have, you've got the Go Giver movement. Is that right?
Yeah, general website is Burg, BURG.com.
Mm-hmm.
The 2-day workshop is endlessreferrals.com, and we also have thegogiver.com. So we've got content all over the place there.
And
social media.
We'll chuck some links down below, or all the appropriate places, depending on where this gets seen, so that you can jump across there and have a bit of a look. And I'd like to thank you for coming along and talking with me. And we've got this beautiful summer day in paradise here. That's why I thought I'd head outside. And is there anything else that you'd like to cover off on before we jump?
No, this has been a lot of fun, very enjoyable, and I wish everybody who is watching and listening, I just wish you a fantastic 2020. May it be your best year yet.
Thank you very much, Bob, and I appreciate you coming along.
Thank you.